West Africa, 1823. An introductory narrative reveals that the Kingdom of Dahomey has recently crowned a young king, Gezo, John Boyega. The kingdom faces a threat from their adversaries, the Oyo Empire, who have allied with the Mahi people to capture Dahomey villagers for European slave traders. The Oyo hold an advantage with their weaponry and cavalry, but the Dahomey are defended by a fierce group of female warrior known as the Agojie, led by General Nanisca, Viola Davis. The Agojie conduct a covert operation in a Mahi village, eliminating the enemy soldiers and rescuing the captured villagers. Come morning, they mourn their fallen comrades and bring the freed captives back home. They arrive just before more Oyo forces appear, with Gezo recognizing Nanisca as his most trusted warrior. Meanwhile, a young woman named Nawi, Thusombedo, is presented to an older brutish man who wishes to marry her. When Nawi remains unresponsive, he strikes her, prompting her to push him over in retaliation. Infuriated, he refuses to proceed with the marriage. Nawi's father subsequently takes her to the Agojie, offering her to the king. She is welcomed by an Agojie soldier named Izogi Lashana Lynch. As the Oyo soldiers, commanded by General Oba Ade, Jimmy Odukoya, discover the bodies of their slain comrades, Oba Ade berates them for allowing women to defeat their troops, instigating discussions for their next strategy against Dahomey. In a council meeting, Gezo addresses the looming threat from the Oyo. Nanisca raises concerns about the slave trade, arguing that it casts a dark shadow over their kingdom by selling their own people. She suggests shifting their focus to trading in gold or palm oil instead. Gezo instructs Nanisca to demonstrate their palm oil production capabilities before he makes any decisions. Nanisca's trusted aide, Amenza, Sheila Atim, addresses the new Agojie recruits, informing them that they will fight and possibly sacrifice their lives for the kingdom. A number of women choose to leave, but a considerable group, including Nawi, decides to stay. Izogi then instructs Nawi to take a bath, and afterward, Nawi approaches Nanisca for a personal conversation. The training begins, but Nawi is puzzled about why they start with ropes, believing she should be using a bladed weapon. Later, Nanisca allows her to try decapitating a wooden statue, but the sword proves too cumbersome for her. In contrast, Nanisca effortlessly severs the statue's head with a single swing. That evening, Izogi speaks with Nawi about her mother's experiences, sharing how she endured abuse from men until she finally fought back. The women continue their training, which includes running, shooting rifles, and learning various combat techniques. Nawi plays a prank by detonating a small explosive on one of the practice statues, and when Nanisca reprimands her, she takes full responsibility. Later, Izogi tells Nawi that Nanisca's legendary feats are well known, particularly her rise to power after being a captive left for dead. Amenza visits Nanisca in her hut and uses special nuts to share a vision, revealing that someone from Nanisca's past is returning. Outside, Nanisca observes as Nawi practices her sword skills on one of the statues. The Oyo warriors arrive at the kingdom's gates to confront Gezo. When Oba Ade steps forward, Nanisca is filled with terror, as he was her captor who had assaulted her repeatedly. The Oyo demand tributes and 40 Agojie warriors, but Gezo only consents to send 20. Nanisca tells Amenza that her vision has come to pass. Portuguese settlers arrive in Africa, led by Captain Santo Ferreira, Hero Fiennes Tiffin, and his friend Malik, Jordan Bolger, who has Dahomey heritage. Malik is horrified when he sees the captured natives. The settlers witness a confrontation between the Agojie and the Oyo, where Nanisca declares that they will not pay tributes and instead presents Oba Ade with the severed heads of his men. This sparks a fierce battle between the two tribes, and during the chaos, Nawi spots a chance to free the captives, even though Nanisca insists it goes against their strategy. After the escape, Nanisca scolds Nawi, but Amenza privately tells Nanisca that the deviation from their plan was her own, as she was more focused on eliminating Oba Ade. Ferreira and Malik meet with Oba Ade and his soldiers as they discuss plans for the Oyo to ally with other tribes to invade Dahomey and capture more villagers for the slave trade. Malik appears uneasy about this development. Later, While bathing by the water, he is encountered by a naked Nawi. She accuses him of being a slaver, which he denies while explaining his connection to Dahomey. He gifts her a piece of jewelry before she retreats to join the others. The kingdom holds a small tournament where the Agojie trainees face an obstacle course that includes navigating thorn bushes, scaling a wall, fighting opponents, and finally decapitating a statue. Nawi emerges as the winner, and Agojie acknowledges her talent and skill. Afterwards, as Nanisca tends to Nawi's injuries, she notices something unusual on the girl's arm. Later, back in her room with Amenza following her, Nanisca inquires about a child she had given up long ago, as she starts to believe that Nawi might be that child. Ferreira speaks with Agojie about potentially ending Dahomey's involvement in the slave trade, arguing that his wealth depends on the slaves, and without them, his kingdom would be vulnerable. Agojie responds by asserting that if the Europeans are no longer beneficial to him, they too would be unprotected. Agojie observes a connection between Nawi and Malik while they converse discreetly during Ferreira's discussion with Agojie. The two later meet in secret, where Nawi gives Malik a protective totem. When he claims he has nothing to offer her in return, she simply takes one of his knives. Nawi goes to take a bath and comes across Nanisca, who scolds her for sneaking away to see Malik. After a heated exchange, Nanisca opens up about the baby she had given up, who was a result of rape, with Amenza helping her conceal the child before giving her away. Nanisca recalls cutting the child's left arm and placing a shark tooth in it. She then makes a small incision in Nawi's arm and retrieves the tooth, confirming that Nawi is her daughter and also the child of Oba Ade. Nawi walks away in shock. The next morning, Nanisca and some of her soldiers watch the Oyo camp. They ignite their gunpowder, causing numerous explosions that send the horses fleeing and leave the Oyo vulnerable. The Agojie launch a fierce attack, resulting in a bloody battle with many casualties on both sides. During the chaos, some women, including Agojie and Nawi, are captured. On a wagon leaving the scene, Nawi notices that a woman's bindings have come loose and urges her to roll off the cart and escape back to Dahomey. While in captivity, Nawi assists Agojie with her broken arm. Nawi manages to return to Dahomey and informs Nanisca about the Oyo's plans for revenge against the Agojie. Although Agojie promotes Nanisca, he prohibits her from taking any further action. Undeterred, she and Amenza plot to rescue the others in secret. When the European slavers arrive to take the captives, Nawi and Agojie fight back. But Agojie is mortally wounded and dies in Nawi's arms as she cries out for her sister. Nawi is imprisoned, but Malik comes to visit her, revealing that the captives are being sent to England and expressing his desire to protect her. Nanisca leads her warriors into the European camp for an attack. They set the camp ablaze and engage the men in battle, freeing the captives in the process. Malik betrays Ferreira and helps liberate the captives, who then drag him into the water, beating him and holding his head underwater until he drowns. Nawi assists Nanisca in the fight, culminating in her final confrontation with Oba Ade. He tries to overpower her, but Nanisca ultimately prevails, impaling him and ending his life. The warriors return home, and Nawi parts ways with Malik. As the Agojie come back with their captives, Agojie confronts Nanisca. He acknowledges her disobedience, but expresses gratitude for her role in dismantling the Oyo Empire, officially promoting her to the title of Woman King. The crowd erupts in cheers for her. Nawi goes to pay her respects to Agojie, accompanied by Nanisca, who then addresses her as her daughter. The two then join the others in a celebratory dance.